That would be fine. However you want to work it out.
I gotta say, it is nice to have a dinner with the family and then jump on a meeting. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. So we'll give it one more minute and get started.
How do folks like the new format of the webpage?
I like it. I think it's great.
Yeah, much improved.
It's a little easier on our end with the new format. I mean, before we were kind of trying to figure out how to upload everything and link it, and it's definitely improved on our end.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring the meeting to order. Patty, I see you. Could you please take the roll?
I can. Can you hear me good?
Hear you fine. Thank you.
John Span,
Present?
Scott Libby,
Present?
Ronald Bisson,
Present.
Larry Brand.
Present.
Sorry, Larry. Dan Flagg,
Present.
Joshua Spooner,
He's excused.
okay, and Bruce Benoit.
Present.
Present except Joshua Spooner.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we get started, Rod, you just want to fill in everyone about town meeting, what's the date, and what the expectation is as far as any zoning ordinances that we'll have going forward?
Yep. Good evening, everybody. I believe you're putting me on the spot, but I believe it's June 2nd. I will confirm that. And the planning board is only bringing forth one ordinance to town meeting, that being what you're looking at tonight, public hearing, which is
Okay,
the waiver standards. There is another ordinance amendment that the Board of Selectmen are bringing. It's a minor procedural to the marijuana business licensing. It doesn't affect any land use stuff.
okay, thank you. All right, so let's go with the March 2nd minutes. I would abstain. I wasn't at that meeting, so I guess I'll entertain a motion in a second, and then you guys can vote.
I move to accept those minutes as written.
A second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All except for myself, Patty, and I abstained. Okay, so let's move to the public hearing. A proposed ordinance amendment to chapter 225, chapter 185, chapter 175, and chapter 191 that revises the waiver standards and procedures to provide consistent standards and procedures across multiple chapters. So I guess, Rod, do you want to fill us in on that, or Andrew?
I'll do that. I'm going to bring them up. So here's our nice new web page, if you can see that. This is the, well, Don just read it. So what we're essentially doing is maintaining most of the language that you see struck out here, consolidating everything to be the same language, and throughout all of those sections instead of referencing in other sections. So all of those sections that we're striking out will be just replaced with the underlined language here. The board has, process-wise, I think you had the last meeting, you had a workshop on this and agreed to this language. There were minor non-substantive edits that occurred afterwards. And I think you had 2 or 3 meetings total with this language and discussion.
Okay, thank you. Are there any board comments or questions before I open up to public?
Just a process one. I'm fine with the language that I had a chance to review it. Has there been any legal review of it, Rod?
There's not been town attorney review. If you'd like me to engage that, I will.
No, I'm not gonna require that. The board's been over it a lot. It's just, as a matter of course, I mean, this is waivers, eligibility, all those kind of things, applicability, that tends to be fruitful ground for attorneys. So in the future, we don't want to think about it, but I looked at it.
I guess the only, we didn't, there's no major changes going on with what we were allowing before, Bruce.
Nope.
I agree. Almost every ordinance, we should be engaging the attorneys.
It's not
I
on
guess
all
I-
the sections. It's not on all the sections. You use standards, X's on the thing, all that kind of stuff. That's policy setting. It's when you get into the margins, and that's where the waivers are, that sometimes you might want to think about it, but I'm fine without it. And so, Mr. Chair, I'm fine.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Andrew, I don't see any attendees over and above the panelists. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are the only ones here.
Okay, so I guess I'll just ask if anyone from the public, which it looks like they're not here, or we do have a few panelists that aren't on the board, if you have questions or comments. All right,
Don't.
hearing none. Kurt, were you going to say something?
No, I was just confirming I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and come back around to the board for any discussion. If not, then I'll entertain a motion. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Or actually, this would be a recommendation.
Yeah, I have a motion that we put forth the proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 225, Chapter 185, Chapter 175, Chapter 191 that revises the waiver standards and procedures as written in the memo to the select board to put on the town meeting warrant with a recommendation ought to pass.
But
Do we
second
have
that.
a second? All right, any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye, or wave your hand. All right, is there anybody that opposes? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, our first project, Life Storage LP is requesting site plan approval for a self-storage facility at 3 Sand Hill, tax map R05, lots 21, D007B. This is a reapproval of an expired plan, and I think Kurt, you're presenting this?
The applicant is not available this evening, apparently. This, I guess, Don, if you'd let me, I'll kind of try to facilitate this one.
Okay,
No changes to the plan. So you guys approved this in February of last year, right before we went into COVID-19. And they needed to do a condition compliance with MDEP, and they just recently got that in March. In fact, we received a compensation fee utilization plan payment from them for that DEP permit to do watershed improvements. In that time, the site plan had expired, which triggers them coming back before the board to get another approval. So the materials that you were given, that she provided a narrative, and could speak better to it than me. But we reviewed, there's no changes to what you've already approved. It might just be a consent item.
okay. How's the board feel?
Giddy up.
Okay. So do we want to do a motion with any conditions, or how do you guys want to address that? You do have in your memo, Rod, you or Andrew, you call out conditions and so forth.
They're the same conditions that you had used previously.
Okay. So do we want a motion or not?
I'll make a motion if that's the process we're going towards. It sounded like that's what we needed. Correct? Just basically to reapprove what we've already approved with the updated.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and with the same conditions. So I move to approve the application for the site plan approval applied for by Life Storage LP for the development of tax map R04 lot 7B with the staff recommended conditions as identified in the staff memo dated March 30th, 2021. The board finds that the application meets the applicable standards as it did back then, pre-COVID, of section 175.8 and chapter 225 of the Topsham Code.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, that was Ron.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second. Do we have any discussion?
Just one clarification, Don, on the motion. I think Scott said staff memo dated in March of 2020, and I believe it was dated January 30 of 2020.
I stated it was dated March 30th of 2021 rather than the January, because I'm just using the newest.
Oh, my mistake then.
I changed what was written in there.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're good with,
Got it.
I almost did the same thing. I think the proposed motion, Scott got it right.
okay, good.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Scott. Even above the shoulders, that's really good, right? So, all right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand or aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, it passes. All right, Mallet Woods LLC is requesting final approval or final plan approval for an 18 lot subdivision tax map, U21 lot 65. If I understand correctly, the 410 page application, Chris. But anyway, I haven't read the latest emails, right? Because I've just been in meetings all day till 6 o'clock. So someone's going to have to get me up to speed, but it's my understanding that it's now for 7 lots, not for 18. And I think it's 3A, which I found with the help of Andrew. So I guess, Chris, you maybe tell us where we're at. And then I guess, Andrew, if you have anything to add, please add. But go ahead, Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Belanger. I'm here to talk about Mallet Woods. Dan Catlin's the client. He owns Mallet Woods LLC. We submitted the entire phase 3 to you for approval. We thought it was important to make sure all the details were ironed out for both of those sub phases, for the road construction, the technical staff reviews, and obviously the subdivision plan. Initially, we gave you a draft final subdivision plan that we have in a PowerPoint that we can present when Andrew's ready, but I need to share a screen to do so. Is it appropriate to do that now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, here I go. Okay, I've got the PowerPoint up. Can you see my? Okay.
Yes.
Can you see my laser pointer too?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we'll get started. Basically, Mallet Woods, this is the cover sheet. Phase 2, we completed several years ago. That's on the northerly side of the site. Phase 3, we're approving now, or hoping to approve now, and that includes the connection to the existing roads that are out there that was built during phase 2, and will also connect to Forest Glen Lane, which is right in this area on the plan.
We're approving 3A though,
Correct.
not all of 3, just the 7 lots.
Completely agree, and we'll update the subdivision plan that I'll show you in a moment. But I want to go through the technical review, or the civil design plans that we created as well. So here's the phasing plan. We're talking about phases 3A for approval tonight, but we've also provided 3B, and as well as the road design for all of the proposed infrastructure from 3A through 3B to Forest Gun Lane. And we did that.
So
just to
Chris,
make sure. Go
Chris,
ahead.
let me ask while you're there, because this is a good chart. That's the chart I printed out for myself.
Mhm.
So when we say we're approving 3A tonight, it is those 7 lots specifically, and the road through those 7 lots. We're not talking the road all the way through.
No.
Correct. Particularly, we want to build about 330 feet of new road to support 7 lots in that 3A development pod.
Okay, thank you.
We have provided the technical staff, Tom Saucier, the town engineer, and town staff, the full details of the entire phase in case they had any particular questions or concerns that we needed to address as part of that process. And we've been working with staff over the last several months to complete that work. Okay. This is the site development plan, shows the road, some potential buildings on each lot. C3 is the utility plan. This shows particularly some driveway stubs that we were installing as part of the road construction, including utility stubs provided for each lot. The 7 lots being proposed are lots 30 through 36. And it's in this area. It's kind of the orange road, and you can see the temporary turnaround that we added at the end. This is the Forest Glen Lane connection plan. Basically, we're connecting to the existing road. The town has requested that we also install a sidewalk and a curb that connects to Mallet Drive along that existing portion of the road. The construction plans also involve a taper or a lane taper. Forest Glen Lane varies in width from 18 feet at this narrowest point to about 20 feet somewhere in the middle. So we've widened the road to provide 20 feet pavement width, as well as adding the sidewalk to Forest Glen Lane. And this plan details the utility construction portion of the project. We are looping in an existing water line and tying into our project with that main. And we are providing 4 sewer services to the 4 existing lots on Forest Glen Lane as well as part of the project. This is the general grading plan for the project. Pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, these are conceptual designs. The houses may change, but we don't expect the grading to change much, and we don't expect the driveway locations to get modified either. This is just a bigger scale of the grading. This shows the connection to the existing road in this area. It shows a future pond that we need to build to support the project, and includes the road and the infrastructure to support it. This is the other end of the road. This is the 3A portion that we're going to approve tonight. This connects to the existing infrastructure that we built and got the roads accepted several years ago. This is more detail of the existing road at Forest Glen. We provided an existing profile, some spot elevations to ensure drainage on each side of the road, the curb and the sidewalk. We also added a basin on the abutter side to make sure drainage is maintained. This is the phasing plan. Basically, we received a memo from Tom Saucier last night. We responded today to address most of the items. One of his concerns was with regard to the level spread of location. We agree it makes more sense to show it on the other side of the road. So we'll update this plan to reflect that as part of the response to him. We basically gave the town a draft narrative explaining what we are going to do, but the plans are still in process, and we'll get that done in a day or two to provide a formal submittal back to the town. This is a profile for the proposed road. This is detail of the pond and infrastructure to support it. This is the existing conditions plan completed by the surveyor. It details both ends of the construction and the existing information along Forest Glen Lane. This is the draft subdivision plan that we submitted with the project. This details or shows all 18 lots just to define the project. For one, to define all 18 of the lots, including the open space area. As part of the technical review, we want at least that worked out and looked at by all of the staff. But in the end, we want to approve just phase 3A. So we asked the surveyor to give me a draft of that section. We still need to add in the existing parcel. There's a couple of things he needs to do to fix the plan, but generally we have taken off the 3B lots and we're only approving those 7 at this time. This is the existing subdivision plan approved and signed. Just for the record, it was 3 sheets. I'll give you some photos real quick. Existing sign over at Park Drive. This is Merriman Way, heading up to Forest Glen Lane Extension. This is looking down at Forest Glen Lane Extension to the end of phase 2. And this is Maryland Way that connects to Mallet Drive on the other end. This is another look of that same road, but this is the phase 3 expansion area. And this is just another look of Forest Glen Lane looking in the other direction. Some general pictures of the existing development, just so you can get a sense. You probably have seen these before. Here's the existing pond at the Forest Glen and Merriman Drive intersection, the first pond we built in phase 1. This is the second pond in the middle or in between phase 1 and phase 2 that was completed. This is the sidewalk connection from our new road at Forest Glen Lane, and this connects to Mallet Drive. And this is the last pond we've already built. It's at the end of phase 2 on the left-hand side, and it's pretty much grown in. Those are all the pictures that I have. I'm happy to go back and answer any questions or look at any plans that you want to see, or I can take it off and do what you want.
Yeah. So I guess if anyone from the board has questions, I can't see your faces or if you're raising your hand. So I guess try to not over speak each other, but are there any questions for Chris.
Yeah, Don, I got one.
Okay, go ahead, Ron, and then Dan will be next.
Yes.
I'm assuming that they're gonna have to come back to get a blasting permit.
Yes, I
Yes.
believe that it's submitted separately.
Okay,
In that regard, thanks for bringing that up, Ron. Chris, I never received a response on that, so please follow up with that because the notification has to go out about the public hearing in conformance with chapter 85. I still have not heard back from either you or the blasting company.
Okay, very good. I'll try to follow up with them.
That may be pushed out now because of notification requirements. So, yep, get on that one.
Thanks, Ron. Dan, you had something?
Yeah, just a couple things, Chris. I guess what was the reason for kind of scaling back to just the 3A lots versus the 3A and the 3B?
Materials are tough to come by right now, and they were having trouble getting what they needed. So they scaled back the development so they can find what they needed and build 3A right now. He also didn't want to approve all 18 lots and have them sit in his lap for forever.
Does, the fact that you're breaking it, the fact that you're breaking it up, does it have any implications for phasing, the stormwater improvements or any of those things, the utilities that were laid out for phase 3 and all that?
We went through the phasing of 3A and 3B with the technical review, Tom Saucier, the town engineer. We did discuss phasing and how to address stormwater related to the phasing as well. Basically, 3A will be sent to a temporary swale and level spreader and allowed to outlet to the existing wetland. We don't anticipate treating that new area right now, but ultimately it will be treated by the pond. We have provided calculations that support that the project, including 3A, still maintains the DEP minimum standards. And we're with 3A as part of the calculation, we're at 77% treatment of the impervious area and the road impervious area, I should clarify, and the minimum standard is 75%. So we still within that range.
Okay. So is that what you just described, has that gone through, so Tom reviewed that, and is there a technical memorandum that's gone through staff review and all that?
Yeah, he gave us a new memo last night, which asked for additional information particular to the phasing. And we spent most of the day providing a written response to his memo, which identified and clarified and addressed, I would say 95% of his concerns. There are one or two issues we're still trying to iron out. And then we will update the plan set and give him a new set of plans based on his latest memo. So we believe we've addressed most of his questions and comments to his satisfaction. And there are one or two items that we're trying to clarify with the Public Works Director with regards to under drains and under drain outlets and those kinds of questions. But we believe the stormwater calculations support 3A and 3B and meet the minimum DEP standards as required.
Okay. And what was the reason for you? I think in one of the slides you had talked about Tom had recommending switching the level lip spreader to the other side of the road.
That's a great question. Initially, I had put it on the left side of the road as you're looking ahead station, but that swale had outletted off the property into an existing drainage ditch, which was fine, but we didn't want to increase our peak flows at that point. And Tom made a great suggestion, is moving it to the other side of the road allowed the water to stay on the developed site or our development site, and it went to the location that it will ultimately go. So it was a good comment, and we're revising the plan accordingly.
Okay. And I guess my only other comment, just as far as the utility coordination, obviously it's extending of utilities that were part of the original phases. So I'm assuming that's all been checked, like with the sewer district and water and gas and.
Yeah, we have sent plans to the water company, the sewer company, the utility companies. Stu K has indicated that he is all set with the plans as we revise them. Recently, Brunswick Topsham Water District did have one additional comment that we addressed in these plans you're seeing. He basically wanted to see the hydrant installed as part of that initial 3A phase. We had shown it on the 3B phase earlier, but we adjusted the plan, so it is now included as requested. So we have gone through reviews with each of those utility companies, and we believe we've addressed their concerns.
Other board questions for Chris?
Yeah, this is Bruce. I have no doubt this is part of a preliminary plan that's been in front of us for years, and I have no doubt that I'm going to be fine on stuff that's happening. I do have a little concern. We have a memo from staff that was dated the 1st of April that talked about the whole, we were doing the whole thing. And so I don't know if this question is for Chris or for staff, but did the revision to 3A and 7 lots literally come out in the last 5 days?
Well, let me start, I guess. We were under the impression that we were going to get all the lots approved, and then Dan would phase the construction, 3A and 3B. So, but regarding performance guarantees and trying to address those requirements, we decided, staff and Dan, the developer, that it made more sense to scale back the subdivision plan to only include the lots that we intend to build right now.
No, and I have no problem, obviously, with that business decision and the materials and everything else that's going on there. I don't try to get into the developer's business. I'm just as a, layperson trying to keep up, look at plans and have the plans in front of us and all the reviews. Like, has that memo from Tom that you talked about that came yesterday, and I'm sorry, is that one of the things that got forwarded like today and your response today? This is just a process question, Chris, and honestly, I'm not altogether comfortable approving things based on 95% there and we'll be okay as the plans is revised and all that kind of stuff. I also, as you know, like to be as flexible as possible with construction, schedules and stuff like that. Don't like to hold anything up. What I just heard is that there's going to be a blasting permit with notice and that kind of stuff. What's the impacts of waiting 2 weeks, tabling this, waiting 2 weeks and having everything all cleaned up and doing it all then? Would that have a significant impact on construction or something like that? And if there's a blasting permit outstanding regarding the road, I guess I'm assuming not, but I wanted to ask.
Should I answer that question?
Yeah, that's or if Dan's around. I mean, I'm trying to figure out the impacts. Everything's not, as you know, we're sitting here and everything's not cooked. I don't doubt for a minute that it's cookable and that it's all going to be brought together and everything's going to be chapter and verse. But and as I think you know, Chris, I don't try to be overly onerous on applicants. I understand they have schedules and they have business needs and all that thing, but this is just you know, I did my homework. I read stuff and then kind of, never mind, we got a different thing happening and plans are coming and technical comments are being addressed, which I have zero doubt are being, but it just would, you know, it seems like this whole thing would benefit from, you know, 2 more weeks of cleaning everything up and being done and clean. But I'm asking, before I talk any further in that regard, what impact it would have on the developer and construction schedules and things like that.
Let me just jump in and give you the process after approval. So what applicants need to do is follow up and get a plan signed. Some of the conditions that you have in front of you tonight and on other plans that you place, approvals with conditions, take time to get that plan signature, and then a follow-up pre-construction meetings happens after that. So to button up all of the items, I'm not quite sure time frame wise, but Bruce, what you just talked about, 2 weeks back in front of the board, I would think that all of those items should be, and Andrew could speak to some of those items as well.
Yeah, the town became aware of the intent for this project to be phased about 3 weeks ago. We didn't see any plans or representation of the actual phasing until a week and a half ago. So that review that was conducted, some of that needed to be repeated, and that's what's been taking place over the course of the last week. Tom Saucier has been reviewing those. There's been active communication going on back and forth. One of the things that I think caught Dan and Chris off guard was when we started asking questions about the guarantee and performance surety issues of this. And that's one component where we have yet to see any draft documents related to that. And I think that's a big component of this, to the point of this being unbaked. I think Tom Saucier has indicated in an email to me this evening that he is comfortable with this being approved by the board from a technical perspective. Looking at the overall picture of, in addition to the construction designs, all the legal documents and kind of, my personal preference would be for us to hold off 2 weeks so that we can have it all nicely organized and put together. And, things like completion dates known. So we're all on the same page with this project.
And just, if I could, Mr. Chair, to follow up with Andrew, you got an email from Tom tonight that he's okay from a technical perspective, but I'm sorry, did I miss the technical memo where he normally goes through everything chapter and verse, and then you have the response and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I know we rely on peer reviews. I know I'm not a professional engineer, but I know how to read a technical review, and I have actually asked a question or two on a technical review memo, that kind of stuff. And so I do rely on the peer reviews, and I do rely on the applicant's engineer stuff that's in writing, and so that's my issue. Is just more, I think this project would benefit from all that stuff put in something dated, something like a week before the next by the week before the next meeting that we all get to review, and it's all, it's just absolutely completely cooked, and everything about the other schedule, the other items that you mentioned could be addressed as well. So
can we take I'm sorry, Bruce, can we take the presentation down so I can see everybody? Thank you. So I guess I'm kind of leaning in the same direction, right? And when I made the comment earlier, I haven't even had an opportunity to read the revised conditions, right? So, and I know, Andrew, you put something out later this afternoon, right? And I know there's an email, but I didn't have time to even open it up. So I guess if you want to know where I'm leaning, it would be to table this for 2 weeks. But I'm not sure Chris has had a chance to answer the question.
Yeah,
is there impact, right? So Chris, do you want to answer that first?
I will say there is an impact for Dan. He's got guys lined up to do things. I don't want to speak for him, and I'm disappointed that the blasting permit didn't get submitted. So I need to follow up with that and those guys. But as far as I was concerned, we've gone through several rounds, technical comment rounds with the town engineer. We did our very best to respond to his last round of comments submitted yesterday, just to try to satisfy him, or at least get him comfortable that the answers to the questions were relatively minor and we will address them. But it is what it is. We got the comments yesterday and we did our best to respond today. If we're not ready, then I guess we will have to wait 2 weeks. But we believe that the technical comments are complete. We'll have the plans ready in a day or two that correspond to that final draft memo that we submitted today. And then we'll submit that formally to the town, and then we'll take it from there. We still need a couple things that we need to work on, is the performance guarantee. Andrew gave me a nice Excel spreadsheet summary of what we need to provide. We'll get that to the contractor immediately so we can itemize his bid to try to respond to that form that he gave us today.
All right, thanks, Chris. So I guess back to you, Bruce. What are you thinking?
I hear you got things lined up, but you can't start until you have your surety bonds, and you can't start until you have blasting permits. You can't start, and in terms of communicating back to Dan, I for at least for this one member, I don't see this as a significant risk of non-approval. I don't think there is one from my perspective. It's just a case of, we actually do. If the ordinance said that we could have staff approve everything and that we don't have a role in reviewing peer reviews and all that kind of stuff, I'd be right with you. You know, I'd be right with you, but we actually do have an obligation, and I don't burrow into every document, Chris, but I burrow into some basic things, especially in phasing, things about like road construction phasing and performance guarantees, because those are things historically that can be kind of a glitch, right? Because I understand that developers, I used to work for them. You don't want to build extra road that you don't need to sell the lots that you have now, and you don't want to get too overextended. So those things kind of matter. So I would be prepared to make a motion to table for 2 weeks. I'd like to know that there is another meeting in 2 weeks from staff or something, that there's, that we can do that, because I wouldn't want this to jump into a month.
There is now. We were intending on having a project here as well. So yes, there is a meeting in 2 weeks.
So I just want to, Ms. Chip, before I make that motion, that's a non-debatable motion when somebody makes a motion to table. So I don't usually make it until I know everyone's had their thoughts and say of where they want to go.
All right, any other comments before he makes a motion? Dan? Well, Larry?
Yeah, I actually had one question just about the phasing for, if you have 3A and maybe sometime in the future 3B, but what if 3B doesn't get developed? Have we just created a dead-end road with 3A? And are we not supposed to be creating dead-end roads?
Our intent, obviously, with the full phase is to connect Forest Glen Lane to the existing road. We did install a temporary turnaround at the end of the phase, and it's my understanding that's allowed as part of a through construction scenario. But
so it does show on the plan that at 3A a turnaround.
Yes, sir.
It has the hammerhead there.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell from my screen, so.
The phasing, it meets our chapter 191.6 with regard to the phasing of the plan.
All right,
Okay,
Dan,
thank you.
Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, I think I'm in favor of the tabling option for 2 weeks, just to clean up some of these loose ends. I agree with Bruce. From a technical standpoint, I think things will be in order, but there seems to be, I just worry about things potentially falling through the cracks and have to deal with them during construction. I think Chris had mentioned that there was going to be a site meeting with Dennis Cox, maybe to look at some of the drainage or something. So I think another 2 weeks, if Dennis has some suggestions or staff has some suggestions for improving the plan from a technical standpoint, I think that would benefit the overall project.
Okay, I just throw out there, Scott and staff know, but I will not be at the next meeting. So I see plenty for a quorum here. I guess let's, make sure we have a quorum for that meeting, especially if we're going to table this.
Well,
Okay.
I'll have to make sure I'm there at this point, obviously.
All right, thank you.
I'll certainly be there to see the fully baked cake.
Okay,
So with that all, if you're ready, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to table for 2 weeks to the next meeting of the planning board.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so I guess all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All
Aye.
opposed? All right, so it's unanimous to table for 2 weeks. All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
So Kurt, let me get my notes. You're here for sketch review. JM Bedford LLC is requesting pre-application sketch review for 1,996 square feet restaurant at 51 Topsham Fair Mall Road, tax map R05B, lot 90 or 9A1. So I guess I'll let you lead off, Kurt, please.
Okay, thank you. This was kind of a late ad, but I think it's a simple sketch application. But particularly in light of what I've just heard, I might be presenting more information than we might at sketch because the plan has moved forward and I was actually going to come in for a sketch final. Staff recommended they didn't recommend, they directed we don't do that. And that's fine. So if I could share my screen, I will
Please
go
do.
through this quickly, I hope. By the way, for the record, Kurt Neufeld with Sightlines on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is actually out of state, franchisee for Jersey Mike's. Of course, the land is owned by John Larson, doing business as 4J's and Topsham Fair Mall and other things. I think everybody knows our mall well, but there were some questions when I was getting some letters. So just to be clear, the location of this site will be as shown in this yellow rectangle between what was Ruby Tuesdays and the Norway Savings Bank. So it will straddle some and result in the removal of some existing parking. However, it fits very nicely. I do want to note that when we come back for final, in addition to the conditional use and site plan, we'll be providing a site plan amendment or a subdivision amendment. Currently, this orangish line represents the boundaries of lot K7. In order to better fit with the ground lease, it's going to be converted to the blue line. This part would be absorbed by K1. I think that's K1, maybe it's K2. And that actually makes a lot more sense because right now there's an easement that provides access through here. We can get rid of that easement and then just becomes part of the general mall. So I wanted to make you aware of that. As far as the site plan, this is going to be a freestanding building for Jersey Mike's. It's going to have a pickup window, not a drive-through. There will be no order boards. It will be only for online and phone-in orders that will have a specific time to come pick things up. Otherwise, it's set up much the same as other similar businesses. This is only a 2,000 square foot building. Traffic will have a counterclockwise rotation. Going to provide its own parking area, which is an opportunity to add some landscape islands. This island would be shortened up a little bit, and the one here at Ruby Tuesdays will be, I'm sorry, former Ruby Tuesdays will be maintained. Utilities will come from Topsham Fair Mall Road. And so this will have its 12 spaces. There'll be a patio on the north side, which is a little bit unfortunate for the winter, but you gotta do what you gotta do here. Primary entrance here. There's really gonna be very limited seating inside. They're only planning on 12 seats immediately. I don't know this particular restaurant well. I've heard folks talk about it very favorably. I guess it's a fairly popular south, and there's one in South Portland. A couple of things I would like to mention, discussions with staff. I want to bring up the ordinance requires or says that there would be a sidewalk constructed in the front of the parcel. In this instance, the area up here is a narrow and even gets narrow at this end and narrow over here. So constructing a sidewalk would wipe out any last hint of vegetation and street trees along there, which seems a little counter to some of the planning that's been done in the mall for this Topsham Fair Mall Road. And in fact, all of the plans which the town is looking to implement call for this island to get wider and go out into the second lane. There's 2 lanes here, which would provide more area to fit the sidewalk as well as maintain some landscaping. So in talking it through with staff, it was agreeable that this project not create a walk that would not connect well and would probably be relocated when the improvements do come through. So as part of that, we're going to narrow this entrance and provide a sidewalk here that's and better visibility and slow cars that might be coming out this wide entrance, slow them down a little bit, force them to come around the corner. And then the pedestrian connection is going to come through the parking lot here into the building. Another thing that is proposed with this project, Jim Howard will be helping out with some of this in priority group, and he's had good luck with the landscaping in front of Panera. It's been irrigated and well maintained, and they clean it up every springtime so that this strip out here, even though it's really out of the project boundaries, is going to be cleaned up, better grasses and daylilies put in, and this will be irrigated, as well as the landscaping around the project itself, immediately around it. So I think it's going to be a real opportunity to dress up this corner. The architecture, zoom out a little bit so you can see all corners. This is their first freestanding building, so they don't have a prototype, but it's going to be a traditional small restaurant look. Jersey Mike's is kind of a red, white, and blue motif. So this would be the view from the parking lot side. They'll have a red awning, red trim up at the top. This will be a light gray stucco. And then this base here is a product that's a rock face. They call it a Versetta stone. It's been used on several projects around town. A northern ash, which is kind of a dark gray looking stone face. I want you to know that I colorized this. This is not from the architect, so I may not be exactly right on the colors here. Matter of fact, I'll guarantee you I'm not exactly right. But I wanted to give you folks a good idea of what the color scheme is going to be. So if you have feedback, we can bring it to the architect before we come back for final. This one down here on the bottom left, this would be the Topsham Fair Mall facade. This would be the drive-up facade. We did have some ideas on how to break up that wall. The owner didn't like it, so we know that we're going to come back here and we'll do something here to break up that particular facade. And then this is facing the mall. What was I going to say about that? In general, it does conform to the architectural design standards. We always welcome feedback from the board. So if anybody has something that they think that we haven't thought of, throw it out there, and then we'll have to reject it because it costs more money. But we'd be happy to hear from you anyway. And then the last thing I think I touched on this was the landscape plan. Proposed to have some additional trees out in the parking area. We're going to have a black ornamental fence around the patio, screening around the dumpster area. This has been heavily borrowed from the Panera restaurant. So if you've seen that in the summertime, I think you'll agree it's a pretty attractive landscape plan. So that's the primary things I wanted to go over with you. Again, a sketch, but I want all the feedback you folks can give.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. Can you take that down for the time being so we have faces again? And I guess if you would maybe, and you already talked about dealing with some of the architectural features and so forth next time around, but can you talk a little bit more about pedestrian safety and that type of stuff and how that's going to marry up with traffic flow into the other pad sites, as well as, I guess, is there anything from a standpoint of traffic impact or anything else related to the Topsham Fair Mall overall traffic plan?
Well, there's the sidewalk connection down the entrance drive that we've tied in. As I noted when I showed the plan, folks who might be coming out from the main mall to get here, if they wanted to go direct, they could come across the parking lot, I guess, as if they would to Panera or would have been Ruby Tuesdays or any of those. We're not proposing any additional sidewalks. There could maybe be some pavement markings, but the intent would be that if you're coming from the opposite side of Topsham Fair Mall or the mall itself, there is a separate sidewalk connection. We are really, cognizant of it. We're working with the town, trying to narrow that large entrance to the site. That entrance is separated by a raised median going in and out. So their cars would not be coming in off of Topsham Fair Mall and sort of doing that little S curve into this parking lot the way they can in some of the other entrances. So in that regard, it's already a step up from safety. When the improvements to Topsham Fair Mall Road happen and that existing island is widened, there would be a connection through a parking stall to the front of the building from immediately off of Topsham Fair Mall Road.
Okay, thank you.
I can speak a little bit to the.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I can speak a little bit to the Topsham Fair Mall Road plan and how this might fit into it or how it might conflict with it. And Rod, I'd invite you to correct me and add as necessary. This is the applicable section from the plan. This plan was done to kind of improve the efficiency of traffic flows through the Topsham Fair Mall, as well as provide for aesthetic improvements. At the upper left-hand corner of the screen is the general location of the proposed Jersey Mike's, and kind of the sidewalk area that Kurt was describing that he's proposing to pay a fee instead of constructing be located just in front of that area. The general concept is to eliminate lanes, provide medians, expand and relocate curbs, provide sidewalks on either side, and provide landscaping. This intersection is a key one with the addition of a roundabout to slow traffic, as well as to just kind of help control these flows and movements here at this intersection. So that's the general concept. We don't have any concrete dates or movements forward on implementation. We need dollars in order to do this. Perhaps with some of the recovery dollars that are coming out, this project might be one that we target. So that's just kind of where this is and how it relates to the project. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. All right, Bruce.
Andrew, what's the estimate on that? That intersection's got to be worth $1 or $2 million.
I think the entirety of the project from 196 all the way down to the south end is 7 million, I believe. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Kurt, and I'm sorry to run counter to the chair, but if you could put your sketch back up. I need you to walk me through regular vehicular access and flow. I know it's counterclockwise, but where's it coming in and where's it going out? I just need to see it one more time, I guess.
Well, I gotta admit, it's a little awkward for this site. I'm gonna get rid of you folks up here.
Was that long kind of diagonal thing? Is that the access?
Right here?
Hey, can you make that bigger?
No. This is just pavement patching.
Can you blow that up a little bit, Kurt? Mm-hmm.
So before I zoom in again, let me just do this. I wanted to show the flow. So
you got a median on the entrance coming off from the intersection there to the right.
Better flow here.
And so how do you get into that place? You're on Topsham Fair Mode, you come from 196, how do you get to that place?
So I don't know if you saw my little red line, but you're gonna come in, you have to come all the way up to the mall and then come back down around to make this pattern work. And then you would
okay,
come out like that. So there will be wayfinding signage up here in particular to say turn here. Because it's not a drive-through, it would be possible to enter from this side if you miss that sign. This is not intended to be an entrance right here, just because of the diagonal parking. So we really only expect to have a couple of cars at a time if people are ordering and showing up when their phone tells them to show up. So it's a little awkward. If you look at Panera over there, it's not quite standard either. Getting in and out of Panera, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we talked it over with staff and a traffic engineer, Diane Morbido, and we think with wayfinding, it'll become more evident. But it is what it is, trying to utilize a new or an existing pad site.
So on that whole stretch where you came in, is a median there, but there's no, on the access road that comes from the intersection, is that median for a stretch, but then after 100 feet or so, or maybe a couple hundred feet, it stops. There's no curb cut to the left there anywhere, that whole stretch, until you get all the way to the mall.
Correct.
And there's not proposed to be one.
Nope.
Are you suggesting there be one, Bruce?
No, I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to make sure that people won't. There's wayfinding signs, and then there's wayfinding cars. They'll, I want to go there, and if there's any break there anywhere, they're going to take a left directly to where they want to go. And you're telling me there isn't any left anywhere on that, and there'll be landscaping that prevents that. And I'm just, so you come all the way in, and then you park. It almost feels like it's being built for, the coronavirus, that we're going to have, that we're all going to sit in our cars, and people are going to, we're all just going to switch. That's, in a couple months, I think that might be largely in our rearview mirror. So I'm optimistic that way, I guess, hopeful. But that's not the case. That's just going to be how it was your comment, Kurt, that this is their first freestanding building. And
I'll get rid of this.
And it's just and it's no skin off my nose. I mean, you've answered my question. So to get there, you got to go past and then back and then right and then back again and then park in one of those spaces and pick up in a timed phone app manner.
Yeah, I mean, you can,
Oh.
obviously, you can certainly park, walk in, order and leave, or eat there. So these spaces would be available for all of that.
And what's those total number of spaces for the whole thing is one?
We have 12 here.
12, okay. And
Yeah,
I'm sure, I know there's plenty around the side if you wanted to park and walk over. So,
right.
okay, that answers my question. I thought that's what you said, but I guess I didn't quite believe it. So I just wanted to, I wanted to ask for
Well,
sure.
Well, keep in mind too, if I may interject, that it's not only the entrance there by the Norway Savings that one could use, but if you keep on going past that entrance, you've got a curb cut and opening further down before you get to Panera, and you could then come back across.
Oh, right.
Double,
Yep.
double
Yeah.
back on yourself.
Where is it? Where's that curb cut?
Just on the far left side of the screen right now, right at Ruby Tuesdays.
Yeah, where Ruby Tuesday was. Yeah. It's an
Yeah, that's
uncontrolled
what they'll do.
intersection.
That's
what they'll do.
I'm with you, Larry. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out I know where you're gonna sign them to go, but I'm trying to figure out where they're actually gonna go to feel more direct.
Well, that direction would line up with the angled parking the way it's shown versus the big S curve coming in from the back.
Yep.
That's more suited for the pickup maneuver versus this
Okay.
other direction.
Not that we need to put the weight of solving all of the world's problems on his shoulders, but we have engaged Tom Errico as well to review this site plan. So we'll put his eyes on these concepts of wayfinding and flow.
No, yeah, this is sketch plan, right? This is just,
This is sketch.
we're batting things around, and I just.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
and I
a
do
firm
recognize-
believer that you can't totally engineer human conduct. You can tell them what you're doing, but if there's another way, that's why I was looking, where's the curb cut where I can just finish the median, bang my hard left right into the parking lot. That's what I want to do.
Well,
It's not there. So-
not without a good truck.
Right, going over the island.
No, and I'm not worried about that. So
Isn't there an ATM kiosk there somewhere now too? Or am
No,
I-
That's
on the
over
other
on
side.
it's on the other side of
it's north.
the old Ruby Tuesday building, closer to Panera.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
over near Panera.
And it's not a drive-up ATM.
No, so I think it's Bank of America walk-up, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, so that if I can, Mr. Chair, that was more my curiosity question, Kurt, on the compliance, the architectural standards and stuff. I seem to remember like the movie place over there, and they started trying to say signs were the difference.
Smitty's?
Yeah, Smitty's and signs was the difference in relief that made the thing and all that kind of stuff. Are you saying that all sides of this, including the drive-through side, meet the current standards?
I am.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
wall,
This thing here?
yeah, the lower
The dri-
right on that, the lower right would be the one on that I'd be curious about, and I don't recall them off the top of my head, but that set flat surface is not of sufficient length. It meets the current our architectural standards.
I know the architect's been working with Tom Lister on the signage requirements. Topsham apparently is actually fairly liberal in that you can have all four sides.
Yep.
And
Bruce, funny enough, it's the same architect that worked on Smitty's for you.
Isn't
so
that something?
You'll have that interaction.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
so
I remember
Kurt, I
asking him
think
a
the real-
question. I said, that must have hurt, right?
Kurt, the real question, I
Very-
think, is about that side. And I thought you mentioned that there was still some more work to be done as far as the architectural reliefs and so forth in regards to that particular side, the drive-up side.
Yep.
Or pickup side.
Yeah, you're pointing to it, Kurt. Yep. that's
yeah,
right.
they had talked about some artwork and some that the owner didn't like that approach. So I think you'd probably be looking at a panel coming out to get some shadow lines, or maybe some different textures. But yeah, we
Could
certainly
probably
wanna-
extend that rock face just up on one panel and have it all done, Kurt, or something, you know? I mean, they're already there with the material. It wouldn't be that expensive.
No, that's a great suggestion. That's why, I really do appreciate all the
But
different
my
ways to
first
do that.
question was, does that comply? I mean, because, I know there's some debate as to whether a sign equals a different face and all that kind of stuff when we went through that before, but
Yeah.
if there is a non-compliance, that would be it. That's what I'm saying. And so I'm sure you'll look at it and don't do anything just for me. Aesthetics is a toughie for me. Is this a pretty sandwich shop?
Right.
It's a sandwich shop, but there is mass and scale and face and materials type things. And just as long as someone can reasonably tell me that meets the architectural and aesthetic standards that we've set, that's what I'll be wanting to hear.
Well, that was our initial comments from staff, and we're aware of them. I think that the material change is a good approach. And, we buried the roof line. Mark Singelman with Alpha Architects has done Smitty's. He did Panera. He's well versed with our code and this. So I think he will not have a problem making whatever adjustment is necessary there.
If it's necessary, I'm not asking you to do something that's not required by the code. Okay.
Andrew is.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's.
Again, Andrew's only asking if it needs to comply with the code. So
That's correct, Kurt.
I'm not picking on you, Andrew.
I'm glad you corrected that. So can we take the pictures down again or not?
Yeah, I'm all set. Sorry, I need, the surveyor part of me needs spatial to understand stuff.
Yeah, trying to with everybody's faces blanked out is hard to keep up with letting everybody speak. So anyway, other comments or questions?
Bruce, we'll let you know that we've worked with Diane. It's only about 78 trips or something like that. It's well under TMP thresholds. So we did look into that.
Yeah, the exit.
What?
You're coming in and ask, you go all the way, Molly, you come back, you take your right. The exit, will it be take a right and go in front of Panera to go out, or will you be sweeping back and forth? And then you have a throat distance question from, that cut to the intersection, which is very short. Must be only a couple of car lengths there or something like that.
Right. Well, that's one of the reasons we narrowed that up to pull that further out. Yeah, I would say that if that intersection's backed up, you can go down to the next one, I guess, closer to Panera.
Right. No, I just.
And that
A curb cut that close to an intersection, obviously, you start thinking about throat length and queuing and what could happen. And so I'd want to hear someone say that the traffic is not such that this should be creating any kind of problem. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's about one car length actually for the coming out of that throat. Yep.
Looking at the parking space there, that's usually 20 feet, which is about a car length. So I think you're right.
Yeah, and the only other comment I have along those lines is just how does the overall traffic circulation for this project, how is it impacted with the other buildings over there, the Panera, the Highbrow, and how does that all work together? Because you have traffic circulation going from one business to the other. How do those scenarios all play out from a safety perspective and an overall circulation perspective? Just something to look at with your application, Kurt.
Okay.
Scott, did you have something?
Well, everyone's touched upon everything. I can just sit back and relax today. But along that same line and continuing with the traffic, that to the past Ruby Tuesdays side of the building, Kurt, so you have the lane for the pickup, but you also have another lane there, right?
Right, the bailout lane.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bailout lane, it's a pass-through lane too. People coming from the parking lot. I just, back to your red drawing of the various ways to enter, various ways to exit. I mean, part of it might be good in that there are so many ways to get there and so many ways to leave that there might not be any congestion at some point. But, to me, yes, it looks great. You've got the cars lining up to go around to do their pickup, but, a lot of people are going to come from that back side, from the mall side, straight in. Just seems like there could be a lot of potential for congestion and angry customers cutting each other off, perhaps. There, it just seems like, obviously, we've talked about a lot of various traffic issues, and there are some. I figured someone's going to do a U-turn around the entrance over towards Norway Savings Bank to get right in there, like Bruce was saying. But that's the other thing. We also have that there's the entrance to that main throughway from the Hannaford lot right next to Norway, so there are going to be people entering through that front part also, because they'll take that left and take the quick right to get in. So it seems like there's a ton of traffic issues or traffic
Potential conflicts.
Yeah,
There's potential conflicts, but I know that the interest of us and the interest of the business owner are generally aligned, right? You want things to be easy and make sure there aren't conflicts. So I expect you'll be looking for that. Yep.
I just don't know if would there potentially be a benefit to reducing some of the access, like on that backside towards the mall side?
Well, we kicked it around a bit, whether or not it would be better to close it off. Certainly the one where we're saying do not enter, I think would lend itself to that. But we didn't want to necessarily limit the options. I'd say if anything, we would do that. The one closer to Highbrow's new building, it's a little awkward, but I've sat with John Larson, Jim Howard, other folks with staff, and Diane Morbido, and it seemed like any restriction other than completely cutting it off doesn't really help, and cutting it off isn't preferable.
And
So
on that back corner, well, you're not seeing my cursor on your map. On that big empty space is kind of, so you can go from that back corner over towards the old Ruby Tuesdays lot, correct?
Right.
So that's kind of a big open spot in there now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought about taking that hatched island that you see,
Yeah.
closing that off, but what that is the access to the Ruby Tuesday / highbrow dumpster. So we didn't want to make that more narrow than it needed to be. That's actually how it is right now.
Yeah.
Just the dumpster access makes it a little bit weird. If folks were coming away from, say, Joanne and using that as an exit, they could certainly come down the bypass lane or the bailout lane. They're wide, they're 12-foot lanes. I don't think that would be a particular issue. It's not quite the same as Panera, because Panera is kind of a weird shape, but I think functionally this is going to operate much the same in that it's not a Wendy's or a McDonald's where you're lining up, ordering and waiting. That sort of fast food. It's not their model.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're doing this pickup window just because of COVID, or if they think that is it's a relatively high turnover model that they know people would want to go. All their other stores are in the middle of a strip mall. Just the way the Panera was the first time they had done a pickup window.
I think they're probably planning on what's going to stick from the pandemic when you're done. And a lot of people dig this, hey, hand it to me thing, you know? So my guess is it's that they're just kind of planning for the future and think that some people are going to like that.
Okay, any
No,
other?
I have just something for Kurt. Kurt, is there going to be a detail coming on the streetscape, enhanced streetscape that you had discussed earlier?
Yes.
I didn't see that in the, okay, great.
Okay, anything else for Kurt, or Kurt, anything else for us?
Is there any coincidence that this sandwich shop is right next to a marijuana shop?
I think the marijuana shop will be a boost to all the restaurants in the mall.
Because that would be baked goods, pastries. That's, you know.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Then thank you very much, Kurt.
Okay, well, we
and-
hope to be back in 2 weeks.
Okay, excellent. So any other business, Rod or Andrew? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
You're all set.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.